Imagine, if you will, descending a narrow, moss-covered shaft into absolute darkness, carrying everything you own, with the sound of war echoing above you. This was the reality for thousands of French civilians, entire families, communities, and eventually soldiers, who vanished beneath the earth into a world carved from ancient limestone. Welcome to Fieldcraft Chronicles, where today we uncover one of history's most extraordinary and honestly overlooked survival stories, the underground cities of northern France and the remarkable human ingenuity that kept people alive within them. The stone that saved them. Understanding the terrain. Long before conflict forced people underground, medieval quarry workers had already done something extraordinary, chiseling deep into the soft limestone bedrock of the Somme region. They extracted building material for churches and villages above, and in doing so accidentally created one of the finest natural survival networks in European history. The extraction technique itself was a masterclass in low-technology fieldcraft. Workers would chisel 3 sides of a block clean, then drive wooden wedges into the remaining face and saturate them with water. As the wood expanded overnight, it split the stone with quiet precision. No explosives, no machinery, just patience and physics working in perfect harmony. The result was a labyrinthine network of tunnels and chambers stretching for kilometers beneath peaceful French farmland, their existence known only to locals. Building a world below, infrastructure under pressure. What makes these underground refugees truly astonishing is not merely that people hid in them, but that they lived in them, fully, functionally, and for weeks at a time. At sites like the Naurs underground city, residents transformed raw quarry chambers into organized communities beneath the soil. Wells were sunk to access clean groundwater. Bakeries were carved directly into alcoves, their ovens vented through ingeniously routed chimneys that channeled smoke up through the earth and dispersed it across the fields above, invisible to any enemy patrol scanning the horizon. The smell of bread baking 60 feet underground, in complete silence and darkness except for flickering tallow candles, speaks to a human determination that no invasion could extinguish. Stables were cut into side galleries to house cattle, goats and horses, keeping both the animals and their warmth within the community's reach. Chapels were shaped from the rock itself, offering spiritual refuge alongside physical safety. Every cubic meter of excavated space served a deliberate purpose, and the engineering required to maintain it was sophisticated beyond what most people would expect from a civilian population under siege. Holding up the sky required a kind of structural fieldcraft that, honestly, any modern survivalist or bushcrafter would recognize straight away. Expanding these underground cities without bringing the ceiling down meant developing a real understanding of load-bearing principles. Early quarry workers preserved natural rock pillars, known as piliers tournés, by simply working around them, leaving these columns of intact limestone standing like sentinels throughout the chambers. These weren't just accidents or oversights. They were deliberate structural decisions made by men who understood, almost instinctively, that the earth above them was only as stable as what supported it. As the communities grew deeper and wider, a second technique appeared, the piliers à bras, which were hand-built columns of carefully stacked dry stone, rising from floor to ceiling and transferring the ceiling's weight down into the bedrock. Alongside these stood the Hagues et bourrage method, rubble and spoil tightly backfilled between stone columns, creating solid load-bearing walls from what would otherwise have been waste. Nothing was discarded. Every broken fragment of limestone became infrastructure. This is pure fieldcraft philosophy in its most ancient and honest form, using every available resource, wasting nothing, and building permanence from scarcity. Survival is never just about the physical. The men, women, and children sheltering in these chambers understood something that, to be honest, modern preparedness communities are only just beginning to articulate clearly. Mental and social cohesion are every bit as critical to long-term survival as food and water. Community roles were maintained underground with quiet discipline. Children continued their education in chambers lit by candles. Religious observance carried on in carved chapels. Cooking schedules were carefully coordinated to manage chimney smoke output. These weren't luxuries, they were survival strategies, because a community that loses its sense of identity and purpose will fall apart long before its food stores ever run out. When the First World War swept across the same northern French landscape centuries later, Allied soldiers discovered these networks and, well, they recognized them instantly for what they were: extraordinary ready-made shelters. Exhausted troops descended into chambers that French families had once called home, resting their boots on the same smooth limestone floors, running their hands along the same carved walls, and, many of them left something behind: graffiti. Names, regiments, dates and drawings scratched into the stone, a conversation across centuries between people who, in their own way, were simply trying to endure. The limestone quarries of northern France are not just relics, they are textbooks. Every pillar left standing, every hidden chimney, every dry stacked wall is a lesson in adaptive resourcefulness that speaks directly to anyone serious about preparedness and fieldcraft today. The people who survived in these chambers didn't have modern gear. What they had was knowledge, community, discipline, and an unshakable willingness to work with what the earth provided. That really is the foundation of every survival philosophy that's worth studying. If these walls could speak, they'd tell you that resilience isn't born in comfort. It's carved slowly and deliberately from hard places. If this episode opened your eyes to history's forgotten fieldcraft, do subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles for new episodes every week. Share this video with every history lover, survivalist, and bushcraft enthusiast you know, because honestly, knowledge this powerful deserves to travel. We'll see you in the next one.